You know what time it is. Another review. And I finally checked out the entirety of X-Men 97 and here's my non-spoiler review. Oh boy, when people were saying that this is the best thing that Marvel has released in a while, honestly I was a little doubtful, but then I finally gave it a chance and oh my goodness, was I proven wrong. X-Men 97 is not only a 10 out of 10 instantly, it immediately became one of the greatest comic book shows of all time. And the number one question that always comes up when it's coming to this show is, do I have to watch X-Men the animated series before this one? And my answer is yes, but at least only 2 seasons. I only watched 2 seasons and I honestly enjoyed it, but it did feel a little bit repetitive and it did get a bit boring in some parts, but then again it's a very vintage and nostalgic show, so you can't really hate on it. And the verdict is that X-Men 97 is infinitely better than X-Men the animated series. Animation wise it does feel modern, but really in a breathtaking way, and normally in the X-Men the animated series, for sure there were high stakes, but then the high stakes were just like this. At the end of the episode, we already knew that the X-Men would beat the villain. However, the high stakes in this TV show actually feel like high stakes, and they are really intense. Like the sacrifices characters will make, and everything feels so dramatic, and this really feels like a huge move on from X-Men the animated series, and they're basically opening a new chapter into the X-Men book, and showing audiences like, oh, this is the X-Men. However, we're having really high stakes, and we're really moving forward with the story. And one aspect I'm really liking about the show is they absolutely do not hold back on the bloodiness, because you have to remember this is under the new Marvel, and the new Marvel animated series branch is called Marvel Animation, so it's basically under the MCU but not the MCU exactly, but just Marvel Animation universe. So it's just the universe with all of the other animated series. However, not the animated series that is in the MCU, the animated series like Spider-Man the animated series, and so on and so forth. This show is truly different from X-Men the animated series in a bunch of ways, and I hate that this review just sounds like I'm comparing it all the way through, but of course don't think that way. But it still just baffles me how they were able to make such a masterful show like this. And when they were teasing the show all the way back 2 years ago in the summer in SDCC, a bunch of people were brushing it off like, oh, what another MCU project, what the hell is this? But then when it finally came out, it sparked hype all around the world, and even now people are going as far as to call it better than the Invincible show. I am very proud of Marvel so far, because they definitely did a fantastic job in the series, all the way to the animation and the action and the grittiness of the show, especially the voice acting, and the soundtrack too is just as brilliant as ever, and each episode is just as good as the other, and the epicness of the show is absolute non-stop. To the intensity of the final act mixed with the amazing music, as well as the action sequences that vary around the whole show, with all of the characters making combos with each other against the villains, that is all just so badass. If you're not convinced by the first episode that this show is phenomenal, I don't know what to tell you. Because I was immediately sold within the final act of the first episode. The immersive music and the mind-blowing animation and the one-of-a-kind action sequences just flowed so well together. Overall, as a Marvel fan and an X-Men fan, I really genuinely loved everything, and putting my X-Men bias away, I will say this again, I genuinely feel like this is one of the best comic book shows of all time. There are just way too much hyped up moments done in the absolutely right ways possible, and hell, I'm not even gonna spoil it, but the cameos that show up in the show is done so brilliantly and shows that the world building in here is actually connected with the Marvel world so well, and it's not forced whatsoever. Overall, it is a flawless comic book show, and I'll give it a 10 out of 10. And one thing I almost forgot to mention, the thing that fascinated me the most is how good the writing is. Everything just made so much sense, and the amount of storylines that they were able to fit in just 10 episodes is so insane. So yes, the show is very much so incredible, and that is indeed the best thing Marvel has released in a damn while. And man, I really can't wait for season 2. Fellow X-Men fans, if you guys have seen the show, what do you guys think of it? Comment down below your thoughts. So my final words is, to me, my X-Men, that show was amazing. And make sure to subscribe and comment down below your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time.